Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to...
With the benefit of hindsight, what would you say is the commonest mistake that most journalists make?
It is delusion of grandeur. A lot of our journalists will come to your office. You want to interview a chief executive, and then somebody says, please wait, can you fill a form? You don't have an appointment. And the journalist is creating problem everywhere. I mean, do you know me? Nobody keeps me waiting in an office, blah, 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 blah. You know, this delusion of self-importance sometimes misleads our journalists, because you go in to interview a governor, you go in to interview the president, the ministers, you have access. After a while, you don't remember that you are a struggling and hardworking journalist. You not think that you're equal to the ministers and all that. So if they drink champagne, you want to drink champagne. You don't cut your coat according to your cloth. So one of the biggest challenges is that delusion that you are too important, without realizing that that positions or importance comes with responsibility. And for me, the responsibility for the journalist is to do his job well. So that's one mistake a lot of us make. And the other one is laziness on the part of a lot of journalists. They are lazy. They don't want to work. And those are the ones you see jumping from Yes Magazine to Prime News to Guardian newspaper to this and to that. They don't stay in one place. They keep jumping. And you remember the old saying, a rolling stone does not gather moss.
Okay. Now, having been into journalism for about 40 years now,
yeah.
Which of the stories will you describe as your most memorable and why? Just one story.
One story. That's very difficult to. But you won't believe it. One of the stories that made a whole lot of sense to me was the story I did in I think 2001. It was a special report I did in Bayelsa State. That was when the likes of Victor Atta, Alamesia, and a few others were championing the resource control. But more than resource control, they were also championing the fate of the people that lived in the Niger Delta, how they lived, how poor they were, how petroleum exploration and exploitation had, destroyed their lives. And I went to Bayelsa State. I was invited by Alamesia then. I did this story on the consequences of oil exploration and exploitation in the Niger Delta. And the particular part of that story that really I still remember that line in my report where I said, here it was a stand-up. I was by the river and I said something like, here is so and so river. Their entire life depends on this river. They take drinking water from this river. They take their bath in this river. They defecate in this river. Their source of livelihood, fishing, is from this river. And now, this river may not be here for a long time. I can't forget that report. I cannot.
Now, of all the interviews that you have conducted, which one is the most memorable and why? Just one.
Oh, these are difficult. These are difficult tasks to do. But there are a number of them I would recall. I remembered my interview with Chris Ngige after he's kidnapped and he was returned um, as governor of Anambra State. So I went to interview him about the kidnap, and he told me a story. Then, you know, if you remember the Okija incident and all that, how they went to Okija.
That's right.
And all that. So that was one interview. It's actually one of the interviews that I am publishing in my collection of interviews, which we are presenting on the 31st on my 60th. You know,
Okay.
The book is called "In Your Own Words." So it's part of it. So you know, he told the story of the day, the night they took him to the Okija shrine, you know, to go and take an oath. And then he told me a story about how they nearly poisoned him on the day of his inauguration. You know, and when you hear stories like this, I mean, it's heart-wrenching, especially at the level where things like this are happening. You know, it was a memorable interview. I remember when I did that program, we had to do 2 hours. We did 1 hour on the first Sunday, and then we did the second 1 hour on the second Sunday, and everybody was like asking for more. It was a good interview. Then I will tell you about the interview I didn't have. You know,
Yeah, I'll
which is
come to that. Yeah, go ahead.
which was very memorable. After the Liberia Civil War, there was a guy called Yormie Johnson, General Yormie Johnson.
One of the rebels.
Yormie Johnson was the man that cannibalized Samuel Doe, the President Samuel Doe. He was the one that captured Doe in that still not explained Ghanaian peacekeepers' complicity. And then Yormie Johnson captured Doe. If you remember that old video where they cut off his ears and other parts of his body. So that was General Yormie Johnson. So General Yormie Johnson came to AIT. Then I was the head of news and current affairs. So he came to AIT. We had pursued this guy for more than 3 months for this interview. And then when he came, we had this pep talk of the pre-interview. You know, you understand what I mean?
Yes,
we're just chatting and getting to know each other and all that. And my boss then, late Ladi Lawal, you know, we were all part of organizing this man to come. If you remember then, as part of their negotiations, he came on.
He came to Nigeria.
He came to Nigeria. What's that word for? On asylum. On asylum. So here we were. My other colleagues were getting the studio ready for us to come for the interview, and we were just having a wonderful. I was asking him about his career, what he enjoyed in soldiering, and all that. I don't know what happened, Abu. And I said, "Come on, General, tell me exactly how did you feel cutting off General those ear, as it was like the lamb that I was with had turned into a lion." The man sprang up. I thought he was going to kill me. He said, "Look, you're lucky that it's not the old General Yormie Johnson that you are. So you are one of those people that have been tarnishing my image all over the world. You are one of the." He said, "And you're an African. Do you know what we went to?" You know, the man started. He was almost going to pounce on me. And then the next day he said, "Go to hell with your interview. I'm not going to have this interview. Blah, blah, blah." I can't even talk about the expletives that came from his mouth on that day. And this man stormed out. I ran after him. I begged. I knelt down. I was like, what will I tell my boss? I know how we suffered for this interview. If it was in the interview that I asked him this question, this would have been the best interview in the world. Anyway, he just ran into his car and told his driver to drive off, and that was the end of the interview.